The morning sun cast long shadows across Maple Street as Camilla Rodriguez fumbled with her keys outside the small rental house she had just inherited from her great-aunt, Alina. The 73-year-old woman had lived alone for decades, and Camilla barely knew her beyond holiday greeting cards and occasional phone calls. Now, standing before the modest two-story home with its peeling blue paint and overgrown garden, Camilla felt a mix of sadness and overwhelming responsibility. Her husband Marcus emerged from their car, carrying a stack of legal documents and wearing his usual practical expression. The lawyer said Elena left everything exactly as it was. He reminded Camilla gently. We should probably start with the house inventory before deciding what to keep or donate. Camilla nodded, but her attention kept drifting to the garage. Unlike the rest of the property, which showed clear signs of age and neglect, the garage appeared surprisingly well maintained. Fresh paint covered its wooden doors, and a heavy-duty padlock secured the entrance. It seemed oddly out of place compared to Elena's generally modest lifestyle. Their teenage daughter, Sophia, bounced out of the back seat, already filming with her phone. "Mom, this place gives me serious mystery vibes," she announced, spinning slowly to capture the entire property. Grattan, Alina was like a total hermit, right? What if she was hiding something cool in there? Marcus chuckled and shook his head. Your imagination runs wild, kiddo. She was probably just storing old furniture and Christmas decorations like everyone else. But Camilla wasn't so sure. Growing up, she remembered her mother mentioning Elena's secretive nature and how the older woman had always been intensely private about her personal affairs. Family gatherings were always held at other relatives' homes, and Alina consistently declined invitations to visit anyone else's house. They spent the morning exploring the main house, discovering rooms filled with carefully organized belongings. That painted a picture of a woman who lived simply but deliberately. Elena's bedroom contained basic furniture and a small collection of books in both English and Spanish. The kitchen held practical items and a few family photographs, including several of a much younger Alina with a man Camilla didn't recognize. By afternoon, they had worked their way through most of the house's contents. The discovery process revealed Elena's methodical personality. Every drawer was neatly arranged, every closet properly organized, and every surface clean despite months of emptiness following her passing. She was definitely particular about her space, Marcus observed. Carefully packing a box of Elena's ceramic collection. Everything has its place and purpose. Sophia had grown restless with the tedious sorting process and kept gravitating toward the windows that faced the garage. Seriously, when are we going to check out the most interesting part of this place? She asked impatiently. That garage is practically calling to us. Camilla had been wondering the same thing, though she couldn't explain her growing curiosity. Something about the contrast between Elena's simple living situation and the garage's obviously recent maintenance bothered her. Why would an elderly woman living on a fixed income invest in new paint and expensive security for a basic storage building? As evening approached, they gathered the keys Elena's lawyer had provided, including a small brass key that Marcus assumed belonged to the garage padlock. The three of them stood before the weathered wooden doors. Camilla felt an unexpected flutter of nervousness in her stomach. Maybe we should come back tomorrow with better lighting, Marcus suggested practically. We can borrow some work lamps from your brother if needed. But Sophia was already examining the padlock with teenage determination. Come on, Dad. We have flashlights in the car, and Mom brought that big camping lantern. Besides, aren't you even a little bit curious about what Grattan Alina was protecting? In here, Camilla found herself nodding in agreement. The mystery had been building in her mind all day, and waiting another night seemed impossible. Sophia's right, she said quietly. Let's at least take a quick look inside. Marcus retrieved their lighting equipment while Camilla stood staring at the garage doors, trying to imagine what her reclusive great-aunt might have considered worth securing so carefully. Alina had never seemed particularly materialistic or interested in valuable possessions. Her house contained basic necessities and a few sentimental items, but nothing that suggested hidden wealth or expensive hobbies. The brass key slid smoothly into the padlock, which opened with a satisfying click that seemed unnaturally loud in the evening quiet. Sophia immediately stepped forward to help lift the garage door, but Camilla hesitated for just a moment, suddenly uncertain whether she really wanted to discover what Alina had been hiding from the world. The garage door creaked as it rolled upward, and Marcus aimed his powerful flashlight beam into the dark interior. What they saw in those first few seconds left all three of them completely speechless. Instead of the typical garage clutter they had expected, old lawnmowers, holiday decorations, and forgotten furniture, they found themselves staring at what appeared to be a professional workshop. Workbenches lined the walls, covered with tools and equipment that looked both expensive and well used. Strange mechanical devices sat partially assembled on several surfaces, and detailed technical drawings covered every available wall space. But the most shocking discovery was the centerpiece of the garage, a large, complex machine that none of them could immediately identify. It stood roughly 6 feet tall and appeared to be constructed from both metal and some kind of unusual crystalline material that caught and reflected their flashlight beams in mesmerizing patterns. Sophia recovered her voice first, whispering in amazement, "What the heck was Gratantalina building in here?" Marcus was the first to step inside the garage, his flashlight beam dancing across surfaces that defied everything they thought they knew about. Alina, the elderly woman who had lived such a simple life, had apparently spent years constructing what looked like a scientist's laboratory in her garage. Workbenches stretched along 3 walls, each one meticulously organized with tools that appeared both familiar and completely foreign. Camilla followed slowly, her camping lantern casting a broader glow that revealed even more incredible details. Charts and diagrams covered every inch of wall space, filled with mathematical equations, technical drawings, and notes written in Elena's careful handwriting. Some were in English, others in Spanish, and several appeared to be in languages none of them recognized. "Mom, look at this!" Sophia called out, pointing her phone's flashlight at a corner workbench. "These tools look like they belong in a space program or something." Indeed, the equipment scattered throughout the garage seemed far beyond anything a typical homeowner would need or even know how to use. Precision measuring instruments sat alongside electronic devices with digital displays and complex control panels. Several microscopes of varying sizes occupied one entire workbench, surrounded by glass containers filled with unidentifiable materials. But it was the central machine that continued to dominate their attention. Up close, it was even more mysterious and impressive than their first glimpse had suggested. Crystalline components seemed to pulse with their own internal light, creating shifting patterns that were almost hypnotic. Metal frameworks connected various sections of the device, and thick cables ran from it to several smaller machines. Positioned around the garage's perimeter, Marcus approached the machine cautiously, studying its construction with his engineers. This is incredible craftsmanship," he murmured, running his fingers along one of the metal supports. "These joints are perfectly welded, and the precision on these components is museum quality." Camilla picked up a notebook from the nearest workbench, opening it carefully to reveal pages of detailed technical specifications and theoretical calculations. Lena's handwriting filled every page with notes about energy frequencies, molecular structures, and concepts that seemed to blend physics with something approaching science fiction. "Listen to this," Camilla read aloud from one of the notebook entries. "Day 847. Successfully achieved stable resonance at 432 Hz. The crystalline matrix is responding better than predicted. Subject shows increased coherence when exposed to properly calibrated frequencies." Sophia looked up from photographing a wall covered with what appeared to be star charts and astronomical calculations. Subject? What kind of subject was she talking about? That question hung in the air as they continued exploring the garages. Contents. A large filing cabinet stood against the back wall, secured with another heavy lock. Several computers occupied a dedicated workstation, their screens dark but cables indicating they had been regularly used. Most disturbing of all, a small area near the rear of the garage had been set up like a medical examination room, complete with a reclining chair surrounded by monitoring equipment. Marcus discovered a stack of journals on a shelf above one of the workbenches. Opening the topmost volume, he found entries dating back nearly 15 years, all documenting Elena's research into what she called consciousness enhancement technology. "She's been working on this project for over a decade," he announced, flipping through pages of increasingly complex notes and diagrams. "And from what I can understand, she was trying to build some kind of device that could affect human brain function, The implications of that discovery sent a chill through all three of them. Camilla remembered Elena's sharp mind and incredible memory, even in her 70s. Family members had often joked about Elena's almost supernatural ability to remember details from conversations that had occurred years earlier. Sophia found a photo album tucked behind one of the computers, filled with pictures that completely contradicted Elena's reputation as a social recluse. The images showed her with groups of people in what appeared to be laboratory or research settings. Some photos were taken at conferences or academic gatherings, with Elena presenting research. Two audiences of serious-looking scientists. "Check this out," Sophia said, showing them a photograph of Elena standing next to a younger version of the crystalline machine. She's wearing some kind of lab coat, and look at all these official-looking people around her. Camilla studied the photo carefully, noting the confident expression on Elena's face and the respectful attention of her apparent colleagues. This was not the isolated elderly woman she remembered from family gatherings. This Elena appeared to be a respected researcher, presenting groundbreaking work to peers who took her seriously. Marcus had moved to examine the medical equipment more closely, discovering monitoring devices that could measure brain activity, heart rate, blood pressure, and several other biological functions he couldn't immediately identify. Everything was connected to a central computer system that appeared capable of recording and analyzing complex data. This setup could monitor someone's entire physiological state in real time, he observed, his engineering background helping him understand the equipment's purpose. But monitor them during what? What was she doing to people in here? A search through more of Elena's documentation revealed participant consent forms, medical clearance certificates, and detailed protocols for what she termed consciousness elevation sessions. The paperwork indicated that Elena had been conducting research with volunteer subjects for years, following strict safety procedures and documenting every aspect of her experiments. But perhaps most shocking of all was the discovery of financial records showing that Elena's research had been funded by several mysterious organizations with names like the Institute for Human Potential and Advanced Consciousness Research Foundation. Bank statements revealed regular payments, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past decade. Camilla sank into Elena's desk chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had uncovered. Her great-aunt hadn't been a simple retiree living quietly on Social Security. She had been a serious researcher, conducting cutting-edge experiments in her garage laboratory, funded by organizations that apparently believed her work was worth substantial investment. "We need to figure out what this machine actually does," Marcus said quietly, staring at the central device with new respect and considerable concern. "And we need to know whether Elena's research was legitimate science or something more dangerous." Sophia was already searching through Elena's computer files, her teenage facility with technology proving invaluable. "Her password protection is pretty basic," she announced, successfully accessing the main system. "And wow, there are tons of video files in here." As the first video file loaded on Elena's monitor, showing her grit-in-it preparing the mysterious machine for what appeared to be an experiment with a volunteer subject, Camilla realized they had stumbled into something far more complex and potentially significant than they could have ever imagined. The video that filled Elena's monitor showed their deceased great-aunt in a completely different light than any of them had ever seen her. Dressed in a white lab coat and speaking with confident authority, Elena was explaining procedures to what appeared to be a volunteer research subject, a middle-aged man who seemed both nervous and excited about participating in her experiment. "Today we'll be conducting session 47 with subject B12, Elena's recorded voice explained clearly. "We've achieved consistent results with frequency modulation between 380 and 450 Hz. And today, we're testing sustained exposure at the optimal resonance point of 432 Hz. Marcus leaned closer to the screen, trying to understand the technical terminology Elena was using. As an engineer, he recognized some of the concepts, but others seemed to blend legitimate science with theories he had never encountered in any academic context. Sophia fast-forwarded through several similar videos, each one documenting different experimental sessions with various volunteer subjects. The participants ranged in age from young adults to elderly individuals. And all of them seemed to have given informed consent for whatever Alina was doing with her mysterious machine. "Look at this one," Sophia said, stopping at a video dated just 3 months before Elena's death. The subject is that woman from the photo album. She looks like she's been coming here regularly. The woman in the video, approximately 50 years old, with graying hair, settled comfortably into Elena's specialized chair, while electrodes were attached to her temples and wrists. Elena moved around her with practiced efficiency, adjusting equipment and checking readings on multiple monitors. "How are you feeling today, Margaret?" Elena asked warmly, clearly familiar with this particular research participant. Cited as always, Margaret replied with genuine enthusiasm. "Last week's session was incredible. I solved 3 complex problems at work that had been stumping me for months, and I feel like my memory has improved dramatically." Camilla felt a chill run down her spine as she watched Elena activate the crystalline machine. The device began to glow more brightly, and a low humming sound filled the garage laboratory. Margaret's expression quickly shifted to one of deep concentration, then peaceful relaxation as the machine operated around her. The monitors Elena was watching showed brain activity, patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the machine's crystalline components. Heart rate, blood pressure, and other biological readings remained steady, while something called neural coherence steadily increased on a specialized display. After 20 minutes, Elena gradually reduced the machine's intensity, before shutting it down completely. Margaret opened her eyes, looking refreshed and alert, more vibrant than she had appeared at the beginning of the session. "That was wonderful as usual," Margaret said, stretching and smiling. "I can already feel the difference in my mental clarity. It's like someone turned up the brightness on everything." Elena helped remove the monitoring equipment while making notes in her ever-present research journal. "Your coherence levels reached 87% today, which is your personal best. Improvements in your cognitive function should be noticeable for at least the next 2 weeks." Marcus paused the video, turning to face Camilla and Sophia with a troubled expression. "This machine appears to be some kind of brain enhancement device," he said slowly. "What if these videos are authentic? Elena was achieving results that should be impossible with current technology." They spent the next hour reviewing more of Elena's video documentation, each session revealing additional details about her research, methodology, and the consistent positive results she was achieving with volunteer subjects. The participants reported improved memory, enhanced problem-solving abilities, increased creativity, and what they described as expanded awareness or consciousness. But perhaps most intriguing were Elena's own personal research notes, which suggested that her work was building towards something much more significant than simple cognitive enhancement. Her latest journal entries describe theoretical breakthroughs that could potentially revolutionize human mental capacity on a fundamental level. Sophia discovered a locked file, directory labeled Project Awakening Phase 3, which required a password they hadn't yet found. However, the accessible files contained enough information to understand that Elena believed she was on the verge of a major breakthrough when she died. "Look at this research proposal," Camilla said, reading from one of Elena's documents. She was planning to present her findings to something called the International Conference on Consciousness Research. The presentation was scheduled for next month. The document outlined Elena's intention to demonstrate her consciousness enhancement technology to leading researchers in neuroscience, psychology, and quantum physics. She had prepared detailed reports showing consistent results with over 200 volunteer subjects across a 15-year research period. But the most shocking revelation came when they found Elena's correspondence with several major universities and research institutions. Far from being an isolated amateur experimenter, Elena had been in regular communication with legitimate scientists who were following her work with serious interest. Dr. Robert Chen from Stanford University had written, "Elena, your latest results are extraordinary. If your methodology can be replicated in controlled academic settings, this could represent the most significant advancement in consciousness research since the discovery of brainwaves themselves." A similar letter from Dr. Sarah Mitchell at MIT expressed eagerness to examine Elena's machine and collaborate on formal peer-reviewed studies of her techniques. Marcus found financial records, indicating that Elena's research had attracted investment from technology companies interested in commercializing her discoveries. Several major corporations had apparently been funding her work while waiting for her to complete what she called final optimization protocols. She wasn't just some eccentric inventor working alone, Marcus realized aloud. Elena was conducting legitimate research that had caught the attention of serious academic and commercial interests. Sophia had been quietly exploring more of Elena's computer files when she suddenly called out with excitement, "I found her password list. And look, there are files labeled Personal Enhancement Protocol that require the highest security clearance." Using Elena's master password, they accessed files that revealed the most incredible aspect of her research. Elena hadn't just been helping other people enhance their consciousness. She had been using the machine on herself regularly for over a decade. Her personal experimental logs documented the gradual expansion of her own mental capabilities. Memory improvements had come first, followed by enhanced pattern recognition, increased creativity, and what she described as expanded perceptual awareness. Most recently, Elena had been experiencing what she called non-local consciousness, moments when she seemed to access information through means that conventional science couldn't explain. The implications were staggering. Elena's sharp mind and impressive memory, which family members had attributed to good genetics and healthy living, were actually the result of years of self-experimentation with consciousness enhancement technology. But Elena's final research entries revealed her growing concern about the responsibility that came with such powerful capabilities. She had begun questioning whether humanity was ready for the kind of mental enhancements her machine could provide, and whether releasing such technology might create dangerous social inequalities. Her last recorded video was made just 1 week before her death showed Elena looking directly into the camera with an expression of deep concern and responsibility. "If something happens to me," she said seriously, "whoever discovers this laboratory needs to understand that they're looking at technology that could fundamentally change human civilization. The question isn't whether it works, the question is whether we're wise enough to use it properly." The weight of Elena's final message settled heavily on all three of them as they stood in the garage laboratory, surrounded by technology that could potentially change the world. Camilla felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of inheriting something so much more significant than a simple house and its contents. Sophia broke the silence by pulling up Elena's contact database, which contained hundreds of names with detailed notes about each person's involvement in the research project. "At all these people," she said, scrolling through entries, "scientists, volunteers, investors, and something called monitoring agents from various government organizations." That last category sent a chill through Marcus, who realized they might be dealing with classified or regulated technology. Elena's correspondence files revealed that her work had attracted attention from federal agencies interested in the potential military and intelligence applications of consciousness enhancement. One particularly concerning email exchange showed Elena firmly refusing to share her technology with what she called aggressive interests who wanted to weaponize her discoveries. She had apparently turned down millions of dollars in government funding rather than compromise her ethical standards. She was protecting this technology from people who might use it for harmful purposes. Camilla understood, reading through Elena's principled rejections of various questionable funding offers. But now that she's gone, what happens to all of this? They spent the next several hours systematically documenting everything in the garage, taking photographs and making detailed inventories of Elena's equipment and research materials. The scope of her work became more impressive with each discovery technical manual she had written, prototype devices that represented years of development, and theoretical frameworks that pushed the boundaries of current scientific understanding. Marcus found a safe hidden behind one of the workbenches, secured with both a combination lock and biometric scanner. Elena's notes indicated that her most sensitive research materials were stored inside, including what she called the complete technical specifications for consciousness enhancement protocols. Sophia had been studying Elena's research methodology and made an important discovery about how the machine actually worked. "It's not just about the frequencies," she explained, showing them Elena's detailed notes. The crystalline components create some kind of field that interacts with brainwave patterns, but only when the subject is in specific states of mental preparation. The machine wasn't simply a device that people could use casually. Elena's protocols required extensive preparation, including meditation training, dietary modifications, and psychological evaluation to ensure participants could safely handle expanded consciousness states. But perhaps most importantly, they discovered that the machine was just one part of a larger network. Her research files revealed connections with similar laboratories around the world, all working on related consciousness enhancement projects under Elena's theoretical guidance. Dr. Yuki Tanaka in Japan had built a variation of Elena's device that focused on creative enhancement. Professor Maria Santos in Brazil was using similar technology to help trauma victims recover from psychological damage. Dr. James Wright in Australia had developed applications for treating various neurological conditions. Elena hadn't been working alone. She had been coordinating an international research network dedicated to understanding and safely developing human consciousness enhancement technology, but their exploration was interrupted when Sophia noticed car headlights approaching the house. "Someone's coming up the driveway," she announced, quickly shutting down Elena's computer system. Marcus immediately began turning off the garage lighting while Camilla gathered the research materials they had been examining. They barely managed to lower the garage door before a black sedan pulled into the driveway and two professionally dressed individuals stepped out through the house windows. They watched as the visitors approached the front door with obvious familiarity with the property. The older man appeared to be in his 60s, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a briefcase. His companion was a younger woman with the alert bearing of someone accustomed to security work. Dr. Rodriguez's family. The man called out when Camilla answered the door, somehow knowing exactly who they were, despite never having met them before. "I'm Dr. William Harrison from the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Research. I believe you've inherited Elena's property and research materials." Camilla exchanged worried glances with Marcus before cautiously inviting the visitors inside. Dr. Harrison immediately took charge of the conversation, explaining that Elena had been one of their most important research partners and that her death had created significant concerns about the security of her work. Elena was developing technology that could be extremely dangerous in the wrong hands. Dr. Harrison explained seriously. "We've been monitoring her property since her passing, waiting for her inheritors to discover her laboratory so we could ensure proper handling of her research materials." The younger woman, who introduced herself as Agent Sarah Collins, was more direct about their concerns. "Elena's consciousness enhancement technology represents a potential national security issue," she stated clearly. "We need to ensure that her research doesn't fall into the hands of foreign interests or criminal organizations." Sophia, with teenage boldness, immediately asked the obvious question. "So you knew about Elena's garage laboratory all along? Were you spying on our great-aunt?" Dr. Harrison's expression softened slightly as he explained their relationship with Elena and her work. The Institute had been providing funding and oversight for Elena's research while allowing her to maintain independence in her experimental methods. They'd respected her insistence on ethical guidelines and her refusal to share her technology with questionable interests. "But now that Elena is gone," Agent Collins added, "we need to ensure proper continuation of her work or secure storage of her research materials till decisions can be made about their future." Marcus felt protective of Elena's legacy and questioned whether these visitors had legitimate authority over her research. "Do you have legal documentation of your rights to Elena's work?" he asked directly. Dr. Harrison opened his briefcase and produced a thick folder of legal documents, including contracts Elena had signed with the Institute and federal agreements regarding the classification status of certain aspects of her research. While Elena had maintained ownership of her technology, she had agreed to specific security protocols governing its protection and development. But what surprised all of them was Dr. Harrison's next revelation. Elena left specific instructions regarding what should happen to her research if she died before completing Project Awakening. He explained, producing a sealed envelope with Camilla's name written in Elena's distinctive handwriting. She wanted her family to understand the significance of her work and to make informed decisions about its future. Dr. Harrison continued. But she also knew that such decisions shouldn't be made without proper understanding of the technologies, capabilities, and potential consequences. Agent Collins added a crucial detail that changed everything. Lena specifically requested that her inheritors be given the opportunity to experience her consciousness enhancement technology themselves before deciding what to do with her research. The proposal was both exciting and terrifying. Lena had apparently foreseen exactly this situation and had prepared for her family to step into her shoes as guardians of potentially world-changing technology. Dr. Harrison looked at each of them seriously. Alina believed that consciousness enhancement could help humanity solve its most pressing problems if developed and used responsibly. But she also knew that the same technology could create unprecedented dangers if misused. He paused before delivering his final, most important message. She wanted you to experience what she discovered, to understand the potential she was developing, and then to decide whether the world is ready for the next stage of human consciousness evolution. Elena's sealed letter, written in her careful handwriting, revealed the depth of planning she had put into this moment. As Camilla read aloud to the assembled group, Elena's words painted a picture of someone who had spent years considering the profound implications of her discoveries. "My dear Camilla," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then you have discovered my life's work and are facing the same ethical dilemmas that have kept me awake for many nights. The technology you found in my garage represents humanity's next evolutionary step, but only if we approach it with wisdom, caution, and genuine concern for the welfare of all people." Alina went on to explain that she had chosen Camilla specifically because of her background as a high school teacher and her demonstrated commitment to helping others develop their potential. "You understand better than most that true education isn't about filling minds with information, but about awakening capabilities that already exist within people." Dr. Harrison watched patiently as Camilla continued reading. Elena's detailed explanation of the consciousness enhancement process and her hopes for its eventual development. Alina had envisioned a world where expanded human awareness could help solve problems like climate change, social inequality, and international conflicts that seemed impossible to address with current levels of human consciousness. But she had also recognized the dangers. Power of any kind can corrupt, Elena's letter warned. And the power to enhance human consciousness could create new forms of inequality, more devastating than anything we have experienced before. This technology must never become a tool for creating superior and inferior classes of human beings. Agent Collins had been taking notes throughout the reading and now presented them with Elena's specific proposal. Following protocols Elena had established, Camilla and her family would undergo consciousness enhancement sessions themselves, experiencing firsthand what Elena had discovered. Only after understanding the technology's effects could they make informed decisions about its future. "The process is completely safe when properly conducted," Dr. Harrison assured them, showing medical clearance records from hundreds of Elena's previous volunteers. "Elena spent 15 years perfecting safety protocols, and we've never had a single serious adverse reaction." Sophia was immediately enthusiastic about the opportunity, seeing it as the adventure of a lifetime. Marcus was more cautious, concerned about unknown long-term effects of experimental technology. Camilla found herself torn between curiosity about Elena's discoveries and worry about the responsibilities that might come with enhanced consciousness. They spent the evening reviewing Elena's research protocols and safety procedures, while Dr. Harrison and Agent Collins prepared the garage laboratory for demonstration sessions. Elena's equipment required careful calibration for each individual user, taking into account factors like brain chemistry, psychological profile, and personal consciousness development goals. The preparation process itself was fascinating. Elena had developed psychological assessment tools that could evaluate someone's readiness for consciousness expansion and identify optimal enhancement parameters for their specific mental patterns. Each person's brain operated at slightly different frequencies, requiring customized machine settings for safe and effective results. Sophia volunteered to go first, eager to experience what she called becoming superhuman for a day. Despite Marcus's paternal concerns, Elena's safety records were too impressive to ignore, and Sophia's psychological assessment indicated excellent compatibility with the consciousness enhancement process. Dr. Harrison operated Elena's equipment with obvious familiarity, explaining each step as he prepared Sophia for her first session. The process began with meditation exercises designed to establish optimal brainwave patterns, followed by attachment of monitoring electrodes that would track her biological responses throughout the enhancement period. The key is maintaining relaxed awareness, Dr. Harrison explained, as the crystalline machine began its subtle activation sequence. Don't try to force anything to happen. Just allow your consciousness to expand naturally as the field interactions develop. The machine's gentle humming filled the garage as Sophia settled into Elena's specialized chair. The monitors showed her brainwave patterns shifting into increasingly coherent configurations, while the crystalline components began their mesmerizing light displays. Within minutes, Sophia's expression changed from nervous excitement to peaceful concentration, then to something approaching wonder. Her eyes remained open, but seemed to be seeing far more than the physical garage around her. "This is incredible," she whispered softly. "It's like someone turned on lights I didn't know existed. I can see patterns and connections in everything, the way thoughts form, how emotions create physical sensations, the relationship between my consciousness and the space around me." Camilla watched the monitors showing Sophia's biological responses, amazed by the dramatic improvements in neural coherence and overall brain function. Her daughter's creativity measurements were increasing steadily, along with indicators of enhanced memory formation and problem-solving capability. After 20 minutes, Dr. Harrison gradually reduced the machine's intensity, bringing Sophia gently back to normal consciousness levels. But the effects were clearly lasting. Sophia's eyes remained bright and alert, and she immediately began describing insights and realizations that had emerged during the enhancement period. "I understand things now that I couldn't grasp before," Sophia explained excitedly. "Complex problems that seemed impossible suddenly have obvious solutions, and I can remember everything with perfect clarity, not just what happened during the session, but things from years ago that I had completely forgotten." Marcus underwent the process next, approaching it with his engineer's analytical mindset. His experience was different from Sophia's, but equally profound. The consciousness enhancement allowed him to visualize complex technical systems with unprecedented clarity and to understand theoretical concepts that had previously been beyond his comprehension. "Elena's machine doesn't just improve existing mental abilities," he reported after his session. "It seems to activate capabilities that most people never access under normal circumstances. I can see solutions to engineering problems that would normally take me weeks to work through." But it was Camilla's experience that proved most transformative. As Elena's closest relative and the person designated to make decisions about the technology's future, her consciousness enhancement session was calibrated for maximum insight into the ethical and social implications of Elena's work. During her 20-minute session, Camilla experienced what she could only describe as expanded empathy, the ability to understand multiple perspectives simultaneously, and to see the interconnected consequences of different choices with remarkable clarity. The dilemmas surrounding Elena's technology didn't become simpler, but they became much more comprehensible. She understood Elena's excitement about the positive potential for consciousness enhancement, but also felt the weight of concern about its possible misuse. Most importantly, she experienced a profound sense of responsibility for ensuring that such powerful technology would be developed and distributed in ways that served humanity's highest interests. When her session ended, Camilla looked at Dr. Harrison and Agent Collins with new understanding. "Elena was right to be cautious about releasing this technology," she said thoughtfully. "But she was also right that humanity needs these capabilities to solve the problems we're facing." The enhanced mental clarity allowed her to see a path forward that balanced Elena's hopes with her concerns, a way to continue the research while ensuring that consciousness enhancement would be developed responsibly and made available to benefit everyone rather than creating new forms of privilege and inequality. But as they prepared to discuss the future of Elena's work, Agent Collins received an urgent phone call that changed everything about their situation. Agent Collins ended her phone call with a grim expression that immediately put everyone on alert. "We have a problem," she announced tersely. Intelligence sources indicate that foreign operatives have been monitoring Elena's research and are planning to acquire her technology by force, if necessary. Dr. Harrison immediately began shutting down Elena's equipment while explaining the urgency of their situation. Elena's work has attracted international attention from organizations that have no interest in responsible development or ethical guidelines. We need to secure her research materials and ensure this technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands. The enhanced mental clarity that Camilla, Marcus, and Sophia had gained from their consciousness enhancement sessions allowed them to quickly understand the full implications of this threat. They could see the devastating potential consequences if Elena's technology was weaponized or used to create artificial advantages for hostile nations or criminal organizations. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked, his engineer's mind immediately shifting into crisis management mode. "Perhaps hours, maybe less," Agent Collins replied, while gathering Elena's most sensitive research files. "We've been tracking suspicious activity around the property for the past week, but tonight's intelligence suggests they're moving to active acquisition phase." Sophia, still experiencing heightened awareness from her session, noticed something the adults had missed. "There are people watching the house right now," she said quietly, pointing toward the darkened street where shadowy figures were positioned near several parked vehicles. Dr. Harrison confirmed Sophia's observation through Elena's security monitoring system, which had been discreetly recording activity around the property for months. The garage laboratory was equipped with hidden cameras and motion sensors that Elena had installed to protect her work. Elena prepared for this possibility, Dr. Harrison revealed, producing another sealed envelope from Elena's emergency protocols. She developed contingency plans for protecting her research if hostile interests ever threatened to acquire it. Elena's emergency letter outlined a sophisticated plan for preserving her work while preventing its misuse. She had created multiple backup copies of her research, hidden in secure locations around the world and protected by her international network of collaborating scientists. But more importantly, she had embedded safeguards in the technology itself that would prevent unauthorized use. The machine won't operate without specific authorization codes that only Elena and a few trusted individuals possess. Dr. Harrison explained while activating Elena's security protocols. And she designed the crystalline components to become inert if tampered with improperly. But Elena's most ingenious protection was psychological rather than technical. Her consciousness enhancement process created profound ethical awareness in its users, making it nearly impossible for anyone who had experienced expanded consciousness to use the technology for harmful purposes. People who undergo consciousness enhancement develop what Elena called expanded empathy, Agent Collins explained. They become incapable of deliberately causing harm to others because they can literally feel the interconnected consequences of their actions. This meant that Elena's technology was essentially self-protecting. Anyone who gained access to it and tried to use it for malicious purposes would find themselves psychologically transformed by the experience, losing their desire to cause harm and gaining deep appreciation for the ethical responsibilities that came with enhanced consciousness. However, the hostile operatives surrounding the property were apparently unaware of these built-in protections and were still determined to acquire Elena's equipment and research materials by any means necessary. Dr. Harrison activated Elena's emergency communication network, alerting her international collaborators that the primary research facility was under threat. Within minutes, similar laboratories in Japan, Brazil, Australia, and several other countries had implemented their own security protocols, ensuring that Elena's work would continue even if her original laboratory was compromised. But Camilla realized that running and hiding wasn't the answer Elena would have wanted. The consciousness enhancement she had experienced gave her clarity about a different approach, one that could turn this crisis into an opportunity to fulfill Elena's vision for responsible technology development. "What if we don't run?" proposed her enhanced awareness, showing her possibilities the others hadn't considered. "What if we use this situation to demonstrate exactly why Elena's approach was right?" Her plan was both bold and elegant. Instead of hiding Elena's technology from the hostile operatives, they would invite them to experience it directly, Anyone who underwent consciousness enhancement would immediately understand why the technology needed to be developed responsibly, and would lose any desire to use it for harmful purposes. Sophia immediately grasped the brilliance of her mother's strategy. "Turn the bad guys into good guys by showing them what Elena discovered," she said excitedly. "They can't stay hostile once they experience expanded consciousness." Dr. Harrison was initially skeptical, concerned about the safety risks of exposing potentially dangerous individuals to Elena's technology. But Agent Collins recognized the strategic advantages of Camilla's approach. "It's actually perfect," she realized. "We eliminate the threat while simultaneously demonstrating the technology's beneficial effects to international observers. Elena's work gets the protection it needs and the recognition it deserves." They spent the next hour preparing Elena's laboratory for what would essentially become a demonstration of consciousness enhancement technology for an audience that included both hostile operatives and legitimate security personnel. Dr. Harrison contacted additional Institute representatives who could serve as official witnesses to the proceedings. As dawn approached, Camilla walked to the front door and addressed the operatives who had been watching the house throughout the night. With the calm confidence that came from expanded consciousness, she invited them inside to discover what Elena had actually been developing in her garage laboratory. "You're here because you believe Elena's technology could give you advantages over your enemies," Camilla said clearly. "But you don't understand what her technology actually does. Come inside, experience it for yourselves, and then decide whether you still want to steal it." The boldness of her approach caught the operatives completely off guard. They had prepared for resistance, security measures, and possible escape attempts. They hadn't expected to be invited to voluntarily experience the very technology they had come to acquire by force, but curiosity proved stronger than caution. One by one, the individuals who had come to steal Elena's work agreed to undergo consciousness enhancement sessions under controlled conditions. Dr. Harrison, an agent, Collins maintained security oversight, while Camilla supervised the demonstration. Of Elena's technology, the results were exactly what Elena's research had predicted. Each person who experienced consciousness enhancement emerged from the process with expanded awareness, ethical clarity, and profound appreciation for the responsible development of such powerful capabilities. By noon, former hostile operatives had become enthusiastic supporters of Elena's vision for consciousness enhancement technology. They understood firsthand why such capabilities needed to be developed carefully and distributed equitably rather than being hoarded by any single nation or organization. The crisis had transformed into the beginning of international cooperation for responsible consciousness enhancement research. Elena's technology would be developed through collaborative efforts between multiple countries, ensuring that its benefits would be available to all humanity rather than creating new forms of inequality or conflict. Camilla stood in Elena's garage laboratory, surrounded by former enemies who had become allies through the transformative power of expanded consciousness. Her Grattan's vision was finally being realized not through secrecy and protection, but through open demonstration of consciousness enhancement's ability to create wisdom, empathy, and ethical clarity in everyone who experienced it. Elena's greatest discovery wasn't just the technology itself, but the understanding that consciousness enhancement naturally led to responsible behavior. The technology was self-correcting. It's automatically creating the wisdom needed for its own proper use. 6 months later, Elena's garage laboratory had become the center of an international research consortium dedicated to the responsible development and equitable distribution of consciousness enhancement technology. Camilla had taken leave from her teaching position to oversee the project, using her enhanced awareness to guide decisions about the technology's future development. The world was slowly beginning to change as more people gained access to consciousness enhancement. Complex global problems that had seemed impossible to solve were yielding to the expanded awareness and collaborative wisdom of enhanced minds. Working together, Elena's legacy lived on through the growing network of people who carried forward her vision of human consciousness evolution, guided by wisdom, compassion, and unwavering commitment to the welfare of all humanity.